So good evening, everyone. So welcome to our 20th, I think, State of the School. So thank you for being here this evening. So I know that we have some of you online, so I hope that you are comfortably seated and that you will enjoy this presentation. So this is Eric, the head of school. So we're going to get started. So with the agenda, so as you can see, we will review the strategic plan progress report. That's going to be the core of our presentation tonight. And so we'll have several people presenting. And so as you can see here, we have our trustees, so our dedicated and motivated trustees, and many of them are here in the room. So I would like to thank you. And so here is the list of our board of trustees, made of 21 trustees plus 2 honorary trustees, Jack Cohen, the Honorary Consul of France, and also Jean-François Heitz. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank them very much because I can tell you that they spend a lot of time thinking about the future of the school and also making sure that the school is run, smoothly, and that we are on good track. So thank you so much to all of you. So, and now I'm going to turn it over to our board chair, Susan Grissom.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time tonight. It's always important to hear what's going on at the school, and we appreciate your time. This is a slide that I love. And I'm just so excited that now it actually spans a full 20 years. Now that we've made it to 2015, we can actually put a full 20 years on here. So you can see over here in blue under the 2015 headline, we are celebrating our 20th year anniversary this year. If you don't know that yet, you should. And there will be lots of events coming up this year. We'll talk about those in a bit. We have reached almost our maximum number of students in school. Year. We're at 423, and that's a huge, huge testament to where we've come from. Back in 1995, when we started with 13. Even, as recent as 2007, we had 276 students. It was the first year that the PNIS, which is it's now the NWAIS, but that's the U.S. Accreditation Institute, where we are able to have a stamp of approval on our program. We are also accredited, as many of you know, by the French Ministry of Education. We have 72 middle schoolers, 305 families. That is a lot. We had a fantastic annual fund. We're still working on our participation rate there. And we have a lot of faculty and staff that are helping educate our kids. Many of you weren't here when we kicked our strategic plan, but we are in year 4 of our strategic plan. The whole plan is about strengthening the foundation of the school and becoming a more mature organization. As you can see down here, our operating budget, roughly about close to $8 million. When we started the strategic plan 4 years ago, we had very, very little in the way of operating reserves. We set a target in the plan itself to get to about 25%, or roughly 3 months of our expenses. We wanted to be able to cover that, kind of a rainy day fund. We've hit that number. And you can also see that there's a facilities reserve. Now, when I spoke to you last year at this time, that number was a lot bigger. It's not quite as big now, but I'll show you why, and many of you know why. Because we are now landowners, which is very exciting. In case you don't know where it is or you weren't here during the open house to take a tour, this is our current building here. For those of you on the phone, the big red arrow at the top. Our new land comprises 3 plots of land that is almost contiguous, almost adjacent to the building. And there's a small square that says ROFR, that means right of first refusal. We know and have an agreement with the owner of that particular property that if she should decide to sell, that she would offer it to us first at market value, and we have an option basically to buy that particular plot of land. So just to explain a little bit about where the facilities reserve went, when we purchased this property, we wanted to do so we knew it was pretty ideal. It was about the same size of the land we're on. It's almost adjacent to where we are. We wanted to be able to move quickly, and at that time we had a line of credit with our with our investment firm. We wanted to go ahead and utilize the line of credit. To do that, it was very, very inexpensive to do so. The money was available to us immediately and at 2% interest. And we did that. We purchased the land through a combination of that line of credit plus a loan of roughly $600,000. As we thought about it more, we decided to go ahead and pay off that line of credit. So that's where the money that was in the facilities reserve has gone to. So that piece of it is paid off, but we still do have the $600,000 loan that's outstanding on that. But we are in the process of paying that down, and we do have a plan to do so. So many of you may ask, and you do ask, and we hear it a lot, what are we going to do with this land? We have this beautiful, wonderful piece of property. What are we going to do? And I think it would be very easy to say, oh, we're going to go put a new school and we're going to expand, and I think we will do that, but we want to do that in a very thoughtful way. And the approach that we've chosen to take is that we've set up a visioning committee. It's called ST 2030, and Debbie's going to speak about it on the next slide. But it stands for FASPS toward 2030, and that number 2030 signifies a couple things. It gets us thinking ahead to a year that's kind of far out there, because it is a visioning committee. We want to be able to look in a strategic way very far out. And secondly, most of you know we have a lease on the land that we're on, and that lease is up. There's a first potential that it's up in 2024, but it's really callable in 2029. So there's a lot of interesting things about that number, and that's why we chose it. And I am now going to turn it over to Debbie, who's going to talk to you more about that particular thing. Thank you. Oh, and this is Debbie Newell, our treasurer, and she does a fantastic job. And I'm so excited that she's on our board and helping us. And it's just a wonderful, thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Susan. I'm Debbie Newell. I've been around the school for quite a long time now. My kids are no longer here. They progressed off to one's first year at college and the other was junior at high school. So I've been here for a while and very much enjoy being involved with the board here, and such an engaged and enthusiastic group of people. So about a year ago, December 2013, the board decided to initiate this FT 2030 committee. They were tasked with really looking to develop a sort of strategic vision for the school 20 plus years out. So just an idea of a date. It's not necessary that we will completely be what we describe in 2030, but it's just making us think further out. In the past, we thought these 5-year strategic plans, which has been fantastic, and this last strategic plan has been a real a great initiative for the school. So it's developed the maturity and strengthen some of our foundations. But this is saying we need to start looking further ahead in order to make better decisions in the shorter term. The committee is made up of across the community, 19 members. I think we have trustees, faculty, staff, and other parents who are not trustees. So a great selection of people who put in a lot of work and a lot of time and thought around this committee. After we first kicked off in December 2013, after our first couple of meetings, determined that it really would make some sense to have a consultant come and assist us with the initiative. So we interviewed several. We brought in a consultant in, I think, end of March, April last year. They started to work with us. And really since they came, we had a sort of 4-phased process that we had gone through. The first phase was the discovery phase. And there were a lot of interviews, a lot of, I think, 55 or so one-on-one interviews the consultant carried out. So these were done not by somebody directly associated with the school, but one-on-one interviews with people, again, across our community, parents, trustees, all across the community. We also held several open house sessions where if you weren't involved in one of those one-on-one interviews, you had the opportunity to come and participate in that open house. And the consultant, April Johnson, was there, and she was asking a lot of questions, going down to get everybody's point of view, just as input. We also put a series of questions specifically around what the committee was trying to discover into last year's satisfaction survey. So there were a series of questions in there, and we got great response back from that, a lot of free response type responses, which was excellent. And that was really the discovery phase. Also looking at a lot of internal documents, so we took a lot of time bringing up up to speed on the school. We also in the past have had a couple of task forces that the board had initiated looking at the enrollment model. And we'd had a couple of iterations of that, and those groups have come up with a lot of interesting thought processes around the enrollment model and how we structured the school looking forward. And so we brought all of that information in this discovery phase. The next phase was really assessment. And all of that information we had gathered, we really brought back together for the committee, the full FT 2030 committee, to look at and really have some very productive brainstorming about what we felt the school should maybe be like. What were some non-negotiable things that we thought were so fantastic and backed up in all of the information we collected and really felt to be strong components of the school that we shouldn't alter, but should be non-negotiable. And then what were some of the things that we were hearing and we felt were things that we might want to do differently. So that was this assessment phase. That was through, it was probably June, July, before the summer, at the end of that school year. Coming out of that, we were identified a handful of options that we thought were worth looking into in more detail. It's the third phase that we're sort of currently still in. That option identification, we identified 3 broad options, of which there were some varieties within those, and did a whole, as we started to dig into those, then initiate some additional market research. I'll talk a little bit more about those things on the next slide. So that progress, that section is in progress. We're really digging into the detail of the options that we're thinking about. And then option selection will be the final phase, and that is really when the board will sit down and say, well, what do we think we want to actually, which of these visions is the one we think we should start to put out there as our target. And our goal to complete that work is prior to, Susan explained, our current strategic plan goes through 2016. We want to complete the work here so this vision, this long-term vision, can become a framework for the next phase of the next strategic plan. So kicking off sometime next year, next school year, we'll be starting to work on the next 5-year strategic plan. So we want this work to be a framework for that work to happen within. And going forward, this vision will offer serve that framework for future strategic plans. Because strategic plans tend to be a 5-year time frame. So as we move forward, we'll see more of those. So I'll give you a little bit more on where we are, the current status of the committee. So we identified originally 3 possible options as to what we thought the school should be like, maybe like in the future. The first, same but more. So there were a lot of things that we said are super strong about the school. They're really non-negotiable items that we need to continue to do. But there's also some things that we could be better at. So the same but more said we will look at an option where the school stays the same pre-K through 8th grade size. We still have the French-American harmonized curriculum that is the core of the school's academics today. But we said we want to look at ensuring that we truly are excellent in all areas. The reviewing and having a very honest look at ourselves and the feedback we got, there's some areas where we could maybe be better. So this option is that let's really be prestigious, well-regarded, well-respected pre-K through 8 school within this French-American curriculum. So there's one subcommittee looking at that and really digging into describing what does that mean, what is the same, what are the things that we do not want to change, and what are some of the things that we may want to change and become better at. The second area we looked at, so we should do a little more work on, we call grow horizontally. So that said, we stay YPK through 8, but we look at horizontal growth, which says we don't grow the grades, but we add an additional curriculum track, either IB or a different language track or something of that nature. And that subcommittee did a lot of work on what that meant, and there was very clear feeling out of that group's work that whatever we did there should not be done at the detriment of our core French program. And we actually, that subcommittee came to the conclusion that as an option in and of itself, as an end in itself, we didn't see that that was really an option that we wanted to pursue at this time. So if we are going to say YPK through 8, the option we're now just looking at is that we stay a French-American school. We're not looking to introduce a different language. This subcommittee sort of phased out and said, we think that this is not an end result we want to strive for. Then the third option which, that we're looking at is what we call grow vertically. That's that we want to look at additional grades. And there were two scenarios there. One is going up beyond 8th grade into high school. The other was actually going down before YPK into a sort of creche or a daycare program. And that subcommittee was both those options. The decision was fairly early made that that creche daycare option was not something we wanted to pursue. We didn't want to go younger than the YPK option. But going up through high school was certainly something that we wanted to do some more work around and really understand what that would be. So the ones that are currently in progress are the same but more option that I described, and the grow vertically YPK through 12th grade. Those are the two options we're looking at. We're looking at them as distinct ends in themselves. What will it look like if that's what we said we wanted to be? In order to, as we worked through that, we needed, there's a lot of questions that came up as to how would that look, what are some of the other schools in the area doing, what is the demographic support as far as the size of the school, those types of things. So we've done, with our consultant, a lot of market research, a lot of local demographic data we've brought in for the subcommittees to look at. We also did a survey of the AFSA. Eric to tell us what that acronym means. It's the French-American AFSA.
So it's the Association of French Schools in North America.
So it's sort of other schools similar to ourselves in North America doing the French-American program. We wanted to look at what they were doing, and there's a whole range of those, of the different grades, different sizes. So we wanted to understand some of those and got some very great feedback from their heads of schools. They're very supportive and comfortable giving us input, which was fantastic. And then we also did looked at the local independent schools to understand better what some of the other schools in the area are doing compared to us. So our next step, after fully develop out, is the same but more on the grow vertical option. The subcommittees are working on that. And then we have the committee, the FT 2030 committee, will present their findings today to the board on March the 8th. At that point, we'll be presenting two different options, and the expectation is there'll be some fantastic dialogue and feedback. The board very much wants to be involved in the process, so we will be taking the research we've done and the explanation of what these two options might look like, and to then determine our next steps on how we move forward with one or both of those two options as far as doing more research. So that's that. As the treasurer, I also get to present to you
double duty this year.
Right. I also get to present to you the finance picture for the school. This brings us right back to today. We've been spent the last two slides looking ahead to the future and what might happen to the school, what we might pursue as far as future growth plans. This bringing us right back to today, the financial summary of the year. So I'd just like to look back a little bit. So the 2013-14, which was the last school year, we finished ahead of plan on that. We had surplus above and beyond what we were budgeted. What we did with that was to use it to pay down, because we talked a little bit about the short-term debt that we had associated to the land purchase. So we were able to fully pay down the line of credit. We pay back the line of credit with our investment bank. And we have also started to repay the $600,000 loan that Susan referred to. We have that loan on, we have a very good rate on it, but it's on a repayment schedule such that there are penalties if we pay more than 20% a year. So we are budgeting to pay that down to 20% a year, and we'll be paid down on that by 2017, I believe, is the target date for that. This year, current year, 2014-15, we are showing slightly ahead of plan, but not substantially. So we're pretty much on target with our budget at this point. We've had in the past, we have been very fortunate, and we tend to budget very conservatively, and we've been very fortunate in the past to have enrollment increase above what we budgeted, which has been a key driver of some of the surplus that we have achieved, which has been very fortunate, right? We also accept the business office and Eric's team are also very good at managing their costs and ensuring that all of the operational costs are really kept under tight control, which is also fantastic. So those two things have contributed to us being able to meet a surplus in the past few years. As we get fuller and get closer to being at capacity in the school, that becomes more and more challenging. So we don't expect to see those sort of surpluses going forward that come from being able to add extra students as the year goes than what we budgeted and as the year goes forward. Then the bottom half of the slide here is the preliminary budget for next school year. We do a preliminary budget at this time of year. The board approved this budget. As you can see, I like to do these little pie charts here so you can see how on the operating side, on the expense side, we are vastly driven by the salary and benefit component of our cost. That's by far the largest component of the costs that we have to cover, and that very much drives our budget. If you then add in the instructional and the facilities, which are also key to educating the kids, the students here, then it's really the vast amount of the budget. So when looking at salary and benefit, our goal is to maintain the benefits. We want to ensure, and this was one of the initiatives from the current strategic plan, that we are compensating our faculty and staff in a way that we're comfortable with. So we are wanting to maintain the benefit package that, as I'm sure you're all aware, it becomes an increasingly expensive thing to do. But we're trying to maintain the level of benefits they have had over the last 2 years, and also to maintain their salary at a level that is commensurate with their peers in other schools in the area. So those are key drivers for us in looking at the budget. On the revenue side, as you see, we are pretty much driven by tuition. We have various other small sources of revenue, but we are a tuition-driven school. So those ones there, I just want to list out some of the cost-saving things. So on the components of that expenses side of the chart that are not salary and benefit-based, the staff here are continually looking at what are opportunities to look for cost savings. There's a few here, I'm not going to go through them all, that are directly related to the line of purchase. We've been able to take advantage of a few things there that have allowed us to reduce a handful of costs. But it is an ongoing process that on the finance committee we're pushing them to the business office to make sure that they're controlling costs, and very happy to see when different items are brought forward that allow us to do that. So that leads to the tuition for 15-16. We are looking at having done the budget, the numbers you saw before. We really focused on the expense side of things, and then that drives us to what tuition needs to be in order to support the schools that we want to be, the school, the faculty, the staff, and the program that we want to be delivering. So we've seen a 4.9% increase in the lower school and 4.2% increase in the middle school. We have a standard of $3,000 difference between the middle school and the lower school, which the board agreed to several years ago, and we continue to maintain that. There's an increase also in the new family fee. Really, the driver there is that we try to keep that new family fee total dollar amount slightly different from 10% of the tuition, because otherwise people get confused between whether they're paying the 10% deposit or the new family fee. It's really the driver on that one, and no increases in the others. And then just a little background for you as to see where we sit in the schools listed here are the schools that we consider to be competitive schools. These schools and the public schools we know are also places where some of our students choose to go. And so we always check back and make sure where we are in that tuition range of the other local schools. And we put FASPS, the current FASPS, and the 15-16 FASPS, so you can see how that maps to other schools in the area.
And that's compared to the other schools, 14, 15, because we don't know what their tuition is going to be.
Exactly, we don't know 15, 16. This is 14, 15 for all of those schools, which is published information. And I just provided you with the 15, 16 for FAST, so you can see how that compares. It still keeps us pretty much at the same place in that hierarchy of schools. Okay. Back to Eric.
Thank you so much, Debbie. So let's talk now about the strategic plan. So we started 2010, our reflection on the strategic plan, and we started it actually in 2011, so we are in year 4, and we already completed more than 80% of the plan. So as you can see here, so we have the priorities that are right there. So the first being the, as we call it, the FAST experience, here excellence marketing and communication, engagement and philanthropy, and operational excellence and financial strategy. So the first one, FAST experience, what does it mean? So it's everything that is related to the program. So you can see here that for the ones of you who were at the first meeting we had for the orientation at the beginning of school year, so I shared with you some priorities. So the first being our re-accreditation for the lower school, and accreditation for the middle school, because when we had our first accreditation in 2007, so we didn't have middle school back then. We've been working on that for more than a year now. And so the first part was to come up with a self-study. So we have two coordinators who were in charge of this coordinating the self-study. Teresa week 1 with our middle school head division, and also Eddie Gilnes, who is an assistant head for the English program in our school. And so both of them were very much helped by Anna, who also was the editor. So they did such a tremendous job over these months, and so we come up with a self-study of more than 230 pages, which is a lot of information, but it was a great opportunity for all of us to stop and say and to see who we are and what we do, and so that's a great exercise. So this accreditation means that we'll have a team made of 11 members who will be coming to our school between 8th of February to 11th. So we'll have them 3 days on the campus. So the chair of this accreditation team is Pam Drezin, who is the head of the French American International School in Portland. We are very confident that first that they will also provide us with some very constructive feedback, and so that it's going to help us also to continue to improve. So the second priority is differentiation, communication. For the ones who've been here for a while, you know that those words are coming again and again, and so because they are crucial. And so as you know, differentiation is not only about talking about the students who have some challenges, but also to making sure that we will be able to accommodate every student's needs, which is obviously a challenge, a daily challenge, but our faculty does a tremendous job at that. So what we, and since we'll have the parent-teacher conferences pretty soon, so you will hear some of you about this SSP. We changed the name. We used to call it the PPRE, which was a French name, and so we said, let's use an English name, so then it makes more sense. So it's Student Success Plan. And so that's something that, again, differentiation is not only when you have this. So if, as a parent, you haven't heard of that, doesn't mean that your child doesn't benefit from differentiation. Differentiation happens every day in every classroom. So it is a methodology to teach. And so in some cases, so we need to have a specific plan in writing to see, especially when we have some different people involved. So I don't want to get into more details on that, but you will certainly hear about it during the parent-teacher conferences. So the third priority, and it goes also partially, it's partially tied to the second one, adding resources for math enrichment and support. I'll talk about that a little bit later in another slide. So, so you heard also about this coding pilot program, so which is effective in kindergarten, grade 2, and the classes in middle school. So the goal on that is to assess this program and to see how we can have this program across the board from kindergarten through grade 8. So marketing and communications. So pretty soon you will have the opportunity to respond to our satisfaction survey, which will be the 4th edition. So that's very important for us. What we try to do is to to diversify the channels of communication, because some might be more, what can I say? Some would love this Friday Flash, and some others would prefer direct communication or in person. So we've been trying to diversify these different channels of communication. And so the satisfaction survey is very important for us because that's, can I say, we try to keep the same questions year over year, so then we can compare how we improve, and so it helps us also to develop some new initiatives. So other things, talking about communication and marketing, so it is very important for us to increase our visibility, so that after 20 years we will not hear anymore that we are the best secret in town. So hopefully that's going to go away, and so we have now people saying, oh, we love hearing you on NPR. So I hope that we'll have also the other ways for us to be known more. So yes, the Parents Ambassador Program, Student Ambassador Program, so that is something that we started to develop 3 years ago, if I'm not wrong. And so this is so powerful to have members of our community talking about our school with their real experience. And we've seen that it was very, very helpful for prospective families. And so this year we developed also a student ambassador program. And I can tell you that when we and Patricia was the one who proposed this idea, and so it was such a great idea because when she made a presentation to our grade 4 to grade 8 students, so we had, I think, more than 50 volunteers, so which was even too much. At some point, what are we going to do with all these volunteers? So we are trying now to make sure that, at least when we ask them to do something, that they really have to deliver something. So, but I'm sure that this program will, go even further in the near future. So, satisfaction survey, I just talked about it. previously, so you see some highlights of the results. So as you can see, we are very pleased to see that the parent satisfaction is more than 4 out of 5. So we prefer 5, but that's fine. For at least it gives us some indication about what we need to improve. So a very important thing also, I was just referring to that, talking about the ambassador program. We are so pleased to see that if you had these two numbers, 93% of the parents responding to the survey would say yes, we would recommend the school. So now you understand why we developed this ambassador program. So when we talk about the areas of improvement, so I just use colors so that you can see what we are doing in order to address those. So here, differentiation methods. This is an ongoing process. It never ends. So when I see that, I'm very happy actually, because it means that people know that what it means, differentiation. So here, community service in middle school. So just to put that in context, the middle school started 6 years ago. So it is definitely an area where we can do better, and so we are working on that. And I will just go over what we do just right after. And fine art, music, and PE in elementary. So those are the main areas that you would say, you need to do something about it. So what we do, I didn't list everything we do. I just, put some key initiatives that are related to those. So as you can see here, we have now in middle school an accelerated math program. We started that in grade 7. And so what that means is that it's not that one group will be behind. So we have a group that has the same expectations that we've had in the past, but we have another group that we know is capable to even go further. And so that's what we've done. And so initially, I know that Teresa used to do that more on an individual basis because we didn't have the capacity to have a group made of enough students to do that. So we last year our middle school math teacher, French teacher Jean-Yves Labouche, initiated a contest, math contest that has been so successful that now all the elementary teachers want to join in. So that is going to happen this year. In preschool, we work on, as we call it, it's a French word, décloisonnement, which means that teachers in preschool would, break down their groups into different groups for language activities based on their needs. And so this is happening on a daily basis. So regarding community service, I just talked about student ambassador, which is a great way, to help our school to say what it is about our school. We use also a tool which is called Manage Back that helps our students to make some proposals about community service activities and also to track their hours. And so we started also a new program, which is a peer mediation program in middle school, and that has been very successful too. We have, I think, more than 30 students who volunteer to be mediators. So what is the purpose of that? It's to train them to solve by themselves their problems. So basically, as are being trained by two parents. So Doris Gayaway, who is a specialist in mediation. So she's a professional in that area, but she's also in our school the FLS teacher, so the French language in school teacher, and my wife, who also has a background in mediation and in diplomacy. That's her area. So we hope that this program may even be effective in elementary. Why not? So that's experimental for now. And so music, so we have two music teachers. Davy is more, does more things about recording and percussions, and so we have, and many other things, but I'm not saying everything. And also Ellen Frederick-Hoffman, who teaches in elementary and also in middle school. And so she's a cello player at the Seattle Symphony. And so she's in charge of this cello ensemble and string orchestra and also the French one. And oh yeah, I didn't talk about this grade 8 students taking French language certification exam. So that's the first time that we are doing that. I think it is a great thing because it is an official exam, an official diploma that will be recognized worldwide. So it is great that at the end of grade 8 our students will be able to do that. So engagement and philanthropy. So I am not Aurélie McKinstry, but I need to excuse her. She is sick, unfortunately. So Aurélie, if you listen to us, we hope that you will be well pretty soon. So what it is about. So this is about being engaged in our school in many different ways. And so there are ways that are more visible than others. And so we start the year off, as you know, with the annual fund, which happens over a week. And so this year was a great year again. We raised already $260,000, which is a huge amount. And so thank you so much to all of you who contributed to this goal. And so we, as you can see, we still have some room because we reached 82% participation. So which means that we can even go further, and we hope to get there. And I would like also to say special thanks to the board who really did their best to challenge our community by saying that if we were stretching our gift, so they would match up to 50,000, and guess what? We were there. So thank you again. So. Pretty recently, so many of you had the opportunity to attend this 20th anniversary kickoff event, which was such a great event. We really wanted to do it in our school, even if it was crowded, but it was a nice crowd, and so we had. I don't remember exactly the number of students. It was about 50 different students who. Volunteer to be on stage, and so we could see all the talents that we have in our school. So thank you again to all of them, and thank you to all of you who were here to celebrate, the beginning of our 20th anniversary. And I must say that, that's the first time that I could say that I ate my office, and it was delicious. So if you've seen the cake, because the cake was actually the building, so which I couldn't believe when I saw that first. So anyway, and I forgot to say something about the marketing. Just to note, and so one parent forwarded to me this article about Bill Gates. I don't know if you've seen that in CNN, but Bill Gates said, "I feel pretty stupid that I don't know any foreign languages." So I was about to say that since we are in this ambassador program, we should contact him to say if he'd be willing to be an ambassador for us, because French is the first language that he wants to learn. So we have some room. Yeah, we'll make some room.
You said it was because it was easy.
You were obligated to say that, right? Okay. So let's go back to engagement and philanthropy. So FPC. So first, thank you, Corinne, for being here. Corinne being the chair of the FPC, and so this is quite impressive when you think that we have in the FPC 29 chairs and officers. So, and I must say, as I said once, that when you go to their meetings, it's first very well organized, and so and that says a lot about our community, about our school, about the commitment and all those volunteers taking, of their time to help us moving some very important projects. So, and as I always say, so we wouldn't be who we are and what we are without all the, these volunteers. So thank you so much. And yeah, we also started a new series of guest speakers this year. So you heard about social emotional programs. So we had two workshops about Cycle 1, and so we'll continue to do that for elementary and middle school in the near future. So 20th anniversary, we just talked about that. So that was the first event last week, and so pretty soon we will have the gala, and so I must say that that's one of my favorite events, especially after my speech. When the dance floor is beginning to be crowded, and so I know that this year we'll have some surprises. Yeah, so thank you, Lisa, for being here. And so, as you know, Lisa and Stacy are our two co-chairs, so a lot of pressure on them. But we know that they will are preparing a great edition. So if you haven't RSVP'd, I really encourage you to do so. So, and during this gala, this is very important because it's going to be the first time in the school's life that we are going to propose and to launch an endowment. And so an endowment is also a proof of maturity of an organization such as a school. And we didn't choose this endowment like that. We, as you know, this school is, the best treasure of the school is its community, which is made of very diverse people with a lot of different backgrounds, representing more than 50 different nationalities, a lot of different languages. So we know that we really appreciate that, and we want to keep that. And so diversity means also socio-economic diversity. And so, as you probably know, actually we have more than $750,000 dedicated to financial aid. And so that means that 22% of our students benefit from this financial aid. So if you think of that, and you do the math, and the number of students that are in your student class, so yes, some students wouldn't be here without that. And so, our community has been very generous for that. And so we want to keep the same momentum. And so one person also, and I would say more than one person, but among all these very generous people, there are two people that have been donating very generously for years, and probably for 20 years, because I'm talking about Patricia Belesquet, our co-founder of the school, and Jonathan, her spouse. And so in honor of Patricia, we wanted to launch this Patricia Belesquet endowment fund. So we, again, and the reason why we do that is not only because we want to keep this treasure diversity in the school, but also it is a question of sustainability for school. And so right now, this financial aid is being taken out of our budget. But if we are, and I'm sure we will be successful at having an endowment fund, so that means that year after year we'll be able to remove this kind of pressure from our budget, which means that possibly we'll be able to maybe increase less our tuition. So, so I hope that we'll be able to reach this goal, and I really count on all of us. So as you can see, we'll have different other events. We really wanted this 20th anniversary to be, during the full year. So in May, we'll recognize our major funders because all the ones of you who came in after this building was up. So we had, many people, many parents who generously donated during this capital campaign. So we really wanted to recognize them as well. And finally, we'll close our celebration year with this Winter Ball in December, where everyone will be invited. So I'm sure that you will enjoy this year of celebration. And so now I'm going to turn it over back to our treasurer.
So the fourth branch of our strategic plan is really around operational excellence and clear financial strategy. And this is really about being very deliberate, much more deliberate and planful in how we manage the finances of the school. Not just looking at what do we need to do now, but being conscious that we need to plan for the future of the school, and we need to, every year when we're looking at our budgets, we need to be conscious of that in how we set our budgets. We needed to start, as Susan said at the beginning, when we started this strategic plan, we really didn't have any reserves put aside. We were living from year to year, which is not a very sustainable situation. So this was really about how do we do that? How do we get more deliberate and thoughtful in how we manage our finances such that we can have reserves for those emergency days, but then also looking further ahead, how do we make sure we have funds and we are in a position to continue to be successful when the lease runs out on the land, or we wish to grow more, whatever those things might be. So that's really what our focus was. And to Eric's point, we're actually done with a lot of the work in strategic plans, a lot of the goals we set for ourselves, we were able to put in place quite early in the first couple of years, which was fantastic. First, using a sort of 5-year modelling approach to our budgeting rather than just looking year to year, has made in the Finance Committee, and then when we present to the board, a much more thoughtful way of considering how we're setting tuition, how we're planning for enrollment, how we're planning our costs, and ensuring that we are putting money aside into reserves. And by giving that longer-term view to how we look at the finances, we've been much more successful in doing that. We have put reserves in place, and as I said earlier, we've been able to, as well, with this sort of managed approach, actually we were able to purchase the land and have been able to really substantially pay down the loans that we took out to move forward with that quickly at the time. This year we launched an investment committee. We had the last couple of years, the Finance Committee have also been acting as an investment committee, and the Finance Committee went through a process of selecting an investment banker that we chose to work with. And this year we decided to separate the investment committee off. We've put structures in place. We've got an investment policy so that the board has approved, so we're much more comfortable. And we've moved that off and launched our first year of an independent investment committee, which is a great step forward for us. And that committee reports back into the Finance Committee and then up to the board. I think the one thing we are still working on is developing a facilities reserve allocation proposal. So when we budget every year, we are very clear on the operating reserve. We need to maintain that as a 25% of our operating budget. On the facilities reserve, we have looked at what we think we need to do. And we are working towards really coming up with a structured approach to that as well. One of the drivers of how we come to that will be the outcome of the FT 2030 committee, because that will give us long-term goals around facilities that we'll need to look at, and that will allow us to back into, so what should we be planning on an annual basis that should be going into that? How long, at what point do we want that to be a particular amount? So we'll be able to plan for that. So that is still a piece we're working on in order to really close out what the goals were of this component. But I think the overall operationally and financial management of the school is in a very much stronger place based on the drivers of this, the ideas that were put forth at the beginning of the strategic planning phase. The school put a lot of work into achieving that. Hand it back to you. Hand it back to you.
Sure. Eric did a lot of talking, had a lot of parts to cover, so thank you for doing that. And thank you all. Thank you for coming to this presentation today. We are super excited about this year. At the beginning of the year, we, as a board, set a couple of priorities. One was the reaccreditation process, which we're so close to completing, and secondly, working on our visioning committee. And we are very positive and very optimistic about where the school is right now, and we want to celebrate that maturity with you in our 20th year. But most importantly, and I think Eric touched on this, and this is something that I've said again and again, what makes our school special and what makes our school different are the people that comprise it. I think the vast diversity that we have in our community really contributes to the type of community that we are and how successful we've been. We couldn't do it without you guys, without our community. I think about all of the volunteer hours that go on. It's just amazing how much our community is invested in the school and has really helped us to succeed. So a huge thank you to all of you for that. And I think with that, we will take questions. I want to point out this email address. I've never gotten an email. So I want to make sure everyone knows that it's there, boardpublic@fasps.org. If you have anything that we don't address tonight, you have any questions, please feel free. It goes to myself and Eric, maybe to the executive committee, I'm not sure, because we've not received one. But I do want to point that out. But obviously, thank you. Obviously, we're happy to take questions tonight from those here or those online. Yes?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So when you're talking about the week of school ending in 2024, that means we're going to be in here for sure until 2024?
Correct. Well, anything can happen, right? If we decide we would like to do something else, we have our lease with the JCC who's next door. We could always approach them and say we would like to have an early break. I don't really foresee that happening.
Unless Bill Gates really
Yeah. But the first break point right now is in 2024, and there's another break point in 2029. But I think our relationship with the J has been up and down through the years, but quite recently it's been very nice and a very symbiotic relationship. I mean, we are on this property, but we also utilize their services. I think that's a nice thing for them. And we've worked very well together, Okay.
And so then the plan is 2030. So that's when you start building the new school. It's going to be built by then.
We don't know the answer to that question yet because we don't know. Obviously, I think it would depend upon a lot if we need both spaces, if we can do with one space. Those questions really haven't been answered yet.
I still plan to get projects like my work. It just seems like 15-year plan. It seems like a very long-term plan.
Yes.
This is an horizon.
I mean, yeah.
It's just visioning. It's not, believe me, it's not going to be, our strategic plan had 112 tabs on an Excel spreadsheet with numbers and resources assigned to each one. This is not that. This is where do we want to be in 15 years? And then we're going to take probably a couple iterations of the strategic planning process to figure out how do we get there. And has anything changed since we've made that decision?
It's really just a picture. It's about where do we want to get to. It's not about building schools.
And what's the maximum number of students you can have here?
In this building?
Yeah.
425.
And we're at
423.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, because we could have accommodated more students because we had to turn down 45 applications of students who are on the waiting list, but because they are at some grade levels that we cannot accept any more students. So, and this is we do the same exercise as we do for the financial strategy, but with the admissions. So when we enroll a student in YPK now, we need to know what is going to happen at the other end of the pipe. So that's the way we work now. We really make sure that we have some objectives, such as having at least 3 classes of kindergarten. And the reason why is because we know that after kindergarten, we won't take any students without French background, so it's more difficult to recruit. So this is really the first objective. And then we want to make sure that we don't have like waves, like at some point we would have like a class of 15 in grade 1, and the following year we would have 50 because it's difficult to manage. So this is a great thing for the school to see that we have a waiting list, even if it's heartbreaking as a head of school to say sorry, because I mean there are many mission-appropriate families who cannot just get in because of our constraints. But yeah, pretty soon I'm very hopeful that and that's why this committee is about to make some recommendations to see how we are going to grow.
Yeah.
So how did you arrive at 425 for enrollment, and for the vision for 2030, do you have visions for what the enrollment numbers might be?
So 425 is dictated by the city of Mercer Island. Am I saying that right, Christiana?
Yeah, part of
fire code.
And fire code and building capacity.
So we didn't derive that number. It was handed down to us. Sorry. But moving forward for FT 2030, I think we're looking at all types of scenarios. As I mentioned to you, it's our community is what's been our part of what makes us unique and what makes us special. So we want to retain that. I don't see us, anytime in the future growing to 5,000 kids, right? That would be very large. But we really have kind of removed the blinders and said, okay, if we want to expand, what would that really look like? What would a healthy school, look like, in terms of offering students the right social and academic and, extracurricular activities? What does that look like? And how do we offer that optimally for a student?
So, Suzanne, I forgot to say that to our community members who are online, that you can also obviously ask questions.
Okay, we should probably take some questions after. Did we answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 3 questions, and I'll start with the one that relates to FT 2030.
Okay.
Just speaking about that. So with respect to the 2 options for FT 2030, if the grow vertically option is chosen, what would be a reasonable timeline for the high school?
I think that the answer to that question is we don't know. This is strictly a visioning committee, and we would really tackle that probably in the next strategic plan cycle, which we will start next year, and see if it's feasible within that planning horizon or the following planning horizon. Debbie, do you want to offer anything?
And just to refer to how we lay it out, if you look at our current strategic plan, we planned already to have a feasibility study about the high school program in year 4. So we are exactly there. So yeah, we'll see over the next strategic plan, what is possible.
Okay. Did you have another question from online?
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
One, could someone please talk about the sports program a little bit?
So
I can't.
Yes, the question is just no sports program?
In what? In middle school? I mean, maybe this person can precise.
I think that they might mean just in general. So, I mean, I don't know, but like after school, there's not much facility for sport. That might be it.
Well, maybe if you could talk to the middle school sports program and some of the sports that they do throughout the year and when those happen.
Yeah, so as you know, we send our students to the J on a daily basis. So not all of them, and they don't go all of them on a daily basis, but we use their facility on a daily basis. We use the pool, we use the gym. So that's part of the program, the core program, our curriculum. So now if this person wants to know about what is happening after the class, the regular class hours, talking about the athletics, for example, or extracurricular activities, so that is another thing. What I can say is that Rebecca overall, who is our athletic coordinator and the PE teacher in middle school, is very active in developing new programs. So I know that some parents were and are very excited about the soccer program, and we had a full soccer, and the thing is that I know that parents wanted also to have a spring session. So, but we had this discussion with Rebecca, and so I think it's important for us now to kind of provide other opportunities and not just to concentrate only on soccer. So, and we will see, as we grow, maybe we'll have the possibility just to have, a very strong program in soccer and aside that to have other opportunities.
And maybe to add to that is that we have running programs
Yeah.
TYO.
Yeah.
Through middle school, and then track starts at what time?
Yeah, we do tracks,
basketball,
volleyball. So what we are going to do also more and more is to try to find some partners like Santa Monica, another independent school on the island. That's what we are doing for volleyball, for example, so that we have enough players to be able to compete. So that's what we are going to do more and more.
One more online question.
Okay.
Is the enhanced music program specific to students who voluntarily sign up for those activities, or is there enhancement that's integrated with the daily, weekly in-class?
Both. Yeah. So we, for example, the string orchestra, we didn't have that last year. So this is an after-school activity, and the cello ensemble is the same thing. So it's after regular class. But during the class hours, so these two music teachers are here, and so they are in the classroom, and some teachers don't use them because that's really something that they like a lot, and so they want to enroll that by themselves. So what the teachers have as a possibility is to use those resources, and what we want to do also is to provide them with more and more resources that they can tap on. So, but again, I don't know in which classroom we are talking about, but what classroom.
Any more online?
We have Jean.
Yeah, Jean was waiting, so I was curious if any more online.
I was just going to ask, one of in the growing horizontally, the option that we've taken off the table is the one where you other language immersion or IB, other curriculum. With the growing vertically and adding high school, are those off the table for high school?
No.
Are those being considered
Those
as
are being considered.
IB potentially? Okay.
It was taken off.
What I'm just saying about the sports question, there's the option of growing vertically, maybe adding high school, versus growing horizontally and developing what's missing in this school. And I think maybe that person has a completely different idea, but growing this is the greatest K through 8 with a well-developed sports program. And I mean, so it's hard. It's nice to have high school all the way through, but I'd be partial to making this the greatest K through 8 and having all of those. I mean, it's nice that we have Santa Monica. I was there, and I think they're doing a wonderful job, but we're rooting for somebody different than here when kids play. And so that's the only thing,
And that's definitely
right. And I was thinking that's why I raised my hand. And that might have been what they were asking. But they're all
anything.
I wanted to know what were the specific drivers of the raise. 4.9 raise.
The main driver is salary benefits. The COLA increase alone was around,
well, the total
salary costs.
Total salary and benefit
And Debbie,
bucket.
can I just remind you to speak to the microphone as well?
Yeah, the total salary and benefit bucket went up by almost 7%. So in order to maintain the level of benefits that the faculty and staff currently have, and to give them a salary increase of 3.5%, but the whole package went up almost 7%. That's by far the biggest driver.
I have one other question. So the 2024 lease for the first point, it does not preclude the fact that that land may be utilized prior to that date.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So I think
Right. No. That's
we can utilize
so
that land.
Exactly.
The plan would be to do that.
What happened was, in 2010, we knew that we didn't have this land forever, and we started to really be concerned about the fact that we would need to raise money to buy some land. Never in our wildest dreams did we think that 2 acres would come available and be available at a purchase price that was reasonable and we could afford. And so, yeah, it's that land is there, and we can use it. We don't just want to rush in and throw up a building and do something without thinking a bit about what we really want down the road, and what does that look like. And then we can kind of backfit. Once we know where we're going, we can backfit in. What is the best way to utilize that asset that we have right now?
It's sort of a related question. You mentioned the possibility of meeting both spaces. With leasing up in 2030, do we know or have an inkling of whether the JCC has plans for this property, or is there a realistic possibility of re-leasing it?
We don't know. And we talk with them, all the time, and I think their plans change, They know that we've bought that land, right? And they had a lot of questions for us once that happened. And they know that it would be hard for them to have a different type of tenant here if they were going to continue to lease this land and not use it themselves. It seems that their capital projects that have gone on have been more focused on that specific building. I mean, they put in a state-of-the-art theater and sound system and really want to reach out to the community. But to be quite frank, we don't know. And we talk to them on a regular basis about what our thoughts are, what are your thoughts are, but it's a bit hard to predict.
But what the J knows, though, and Suzanne and I, when there maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, we've been there a lot.
So that's when we expressed our interest in buying the property. So
right.
They know that we are interested. And back then, they said that Judy Newman, the CEO of the J, spoke with their board, and so they came back to us and say, no, that's not the right timing, and so it doesn't mean that it will not happen, but it was not just already. And so we keep the discussion open.
Right. Yes, Laura, is there another online question?
A couple more questions.
Great.
Will the coding pilot program follow children into the next grade? So currently, if the child in kindergarten is having coding, will they also have it next year in first grade?
So the plan is to first really assess, if it is how can I say? If it is really the right thing to do, I think it is, but we need to make sure that we have the right setup. And so the way we did it, and we are doing it this year, we kind of had this idea and this opportunity came up over the summer. And so we said, okay, we want to do that. So we spoke with the teachers and say, are you ready to start and really to experiment? And they say yes. So it's very tough to find teachers who are able to teach coding, and some have these skills, but I can tell you that on the market, they don't have to spend many days to find a job, to look for a job. So now what we are looking at is to be able to hire someone who will be doing that in-house versus having a company right now. TechSmart Kids is a great company. We've been very pleased with them, and they are doing such a great job. But remember that in our school, one of the biggest challenge is the harmonization already of the French and the American program. So the more people you get in with their program, the most difficult it is to make things working. So that's why we placed an ad. I had interviews when I went to Paris 2 weeks ago. So the plan is to hire this person who will be in charge also of technology in middle school, coding in middle school, and to train and help the coding in elementary. So train the teachers so that they will be in charge of it. So that's the plan. So to answer the question, yes, if everything goes right, if we find the right person, the idea is to have from kindergarten through grade 8, students being able to have coding classes.
Great. One more logistical question. Is ELL and FLL being offered in first and second grade currently? And if it's not,
ELL and FSL is being provided, yeah, from kindergarten, FLS, French language in school, yes. Yeah. So it's provided from kindergarten through grade 5. Yeah, and just to give you numbers, I need to find my notes, but talking about differentiation, we have, I said that, and it is true, that differentiation is for everyone. But in this specific program like ELL, FLS, reading support, math enrichment, all these programs that we have here, so there are more than about 180 students who really benefit from these programs on a daily basis. And the others obviously benefit from that too, because once we have those students going into this specialist, so the class setup is totally different. So everyone benefits from that.
I may have misunderstood the coding question, but I think they might have been asking, is it currently staggered in the lower school, grades 1, 3, and 5, or something like that? If we don't get a permanent coding teacher and continue to use tech, next year would it be 1, 3, 5 again, or would it be 2, 4, so that the kids could follow what they did this year? I think that's what the question might have been.
Yeah, so, and I forgot to mention one thing, which was that the goal is to hire someone, and I'm not sure yet that this person will be able to do everything that I just described to you, talking about the hours. So that means that we would possibly continue to work with TechSmart Kids at some point. So, to be honest with you, I don't know yet, because it's going to depend upon who will be this person. So right now, we haven't stopped our reflection on whether it's going to be, we really need someone from France or a French teacher or an American. That's not the most important. The most important is the program. So we need to find the right person. So once I have the right staffing, so then I will be able to speak with the teachers and see if we can do, which is this ultimate goal again, to be able to provide these coding classes to students from kindergarten through grade 8. Questions?
Working with the city about traffic and planning, is that part of the vision?
It's not part of the visioning process, but it will have to be part of the implementation. Because we'll have to figure out, at some point, it's likely that we're going to build a building over there. We're going to have to get with the city and talk about numbers, and they're going to ask about traffic patterns. And the last traffic study was done here quite a while ago. So I have a funny feeling if there were a traffic study done now, we'd be responsible for providing the city with something more than what we have right now. I don't know if that's a light. I don't know if that's I don't know what that is. But.
Good. So thank you very much to
thank you all.
of you.